These times are strange, it's quite surreal. It's never been like this. Remembering the good old days when we could hug and kiss. We'd pack the gyms and restaurants and move through public settings. We'd give high fives and drink at dives, hold hands and dance at weddings. Now the days are longer, yet they're darker in a way. We're pressing pause on normalcy, just going day by day. But we can still make jokes and art, garden, dance and sing, cook, read books, try on fun looks and learn about new things. We can talk with friends of ours and have a heart to heart, just so long as we'll stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you, 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical, so step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to 6 Feet Apart Productions and Happy New Year. We are so thrilled and excited to be bringing you our first show of 2021 called Refresh, Reset, Reboot. Now we are hoping that 2021 would make a fresh start, but from the hell that was 2020, but it seems the misery gods have not quite done with us yet, have they? So I must say, as an import from Britain, I was quite surprised by the chaos that was happening at the Capitol last week on the 6th, and I'm really hoping that this Wednesday that it will be a little bit more peaceful and uneventful, as I'm sure we all are, no matter what your politics. So that said, we're going to give you some light relief tonight, and we've got 4 of the best storytellers around, and they'll each be telling about a 15-minute story to delight and entertain you. So before we get started, though, I want to welcome everybody watching on YouTube. Please put some comments in the YouTube chat. Tell us where you're from, what you're doing, you know, who you're particularly come for. And we'll try and get to some of those in the at the time before we start. Also, we're going to do, as it's New Year, we're doing New Year's resolutions as well. So if you've got any particularly fun or unusual New Year's resolutions, please tell us in the chat and we'll have a look. And hopefully our storytellers will tell us what they are too, although a couple of them have not told me. So now before we get started, I'd like to welcome all of us. We've got a backstage gallery here of people here. So I'd like to welcome everybody who's in our Zoom. So wave everybody and say hi. Lovely, they're our backstage audience. And right, okay, so we're now going to get started. All our storytellers, I say, are full-time storytellers, or at least they were making money, making their living through telling stories before we had this bloody awful pandemic. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for being here and supporting them, because obviously that's how they make their living. Now, first up, our first storyteller tonight is Reggie Carpenter. Now, Reggie is an award-winning performer who's toured with her solo shows and workshops all over the world for about the last 20 years. And her stories have been featured on the Moth and NPR and many other radio stations. She says she's the youngest daughter in her family and was raised on the St. Lawrence River in Clayton, New York. And she's written a memoir about that. Where there's smoke, there's dinner, stories of a seared childhood. And the book list review said that was an unexpected gift that leaves us longing for more. So if you want to find out about that memoir or anything else to do with Reggie, go to her website, Reggie, R-E-G-I, carpenter.com. Now, Reggie's New Year's resolution is that she wants to get a puppy. I'm not sure she realizes quite how much work they are. My sister just got one recently, and it's harder work than having a child, she says. Not that she's had a child, mind you, so she doesn't really know that. At least you don't have to birth a puppy, do you? So anyway, good luck to Reggie on that one. So please join me in giving a huge virtual welcome to our first storyteller, Reggie Carpenter.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year, everybody. Well, I was 29 when I finally got my big break in show business. Oh, I finally got the job of my dreams. It absolutely reeked of daring and adventure. Obviously, it was leading to my destiny. I was hired as a dancer, a lady-in-waiting, and a Shakespearean actor at a Renaissance fair in Pennsylvania. Oh, for 6 weekends throughout the summer, a trumpet blasts while heavy wooden gates swing open to allow Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth I, to process throughout the imaginary town of Warwick, England. In her procession are clergy, royalty, jugglers, her private jester, and musicians. As she walks throughout the town filled with shops and jousting something and theaters. Oh, it is amazing. There are women dressed as wenches. There are boys who pretend to be knights. There are people dressed in medieval garb. They bow and curtsy as they all cry, "All hail the Queen." The year 1585. Now, the fair is a carefully planned illusion that is taken down all the way from dialect to dress. We actors have to arrive 6 weeks before the fair begins because we have a lot to learn. We practice hand-to-hand combat over by the leather shop. Oh my goodness. We sing hymns over by the cesspool of shame. We eat our lunches by Sir Lunch-a-Lot. We recite illicit poetry and bad verse over by the Up Your Quilt shop. And we practice country songs and dances while we listen to people play medieval instruments that sound like mating ducks. We rehearse at least 10 hours a day. Now, I'm cast as a lady-in-waiting, a dancer, and I shall be playing the role of Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream. Now, in order to fulfill all of my duties, I have to learn a variety of accents. For example, have you the lion's part written? If it be, give it me, for I am slow of study. Or, I like this place and would willingly waste time in it. Or, speak not to her, she's a lunatic. Now, in addition to my planned theatrics, I am also required to spontaneously speak in Elizabethan English in the bard's tongue. So I am learning all kinds of new phrases. For example, if I want to tell someone I don't want them to talk to me, I might say, "Thy dank, cavernous tooth hole defies all right and reason." But if I find someone very handsome, I might say to him, "Oh, good sir, thou hast the fairest and most winsome nose herb." Now, there is one hard and fast rule at the fair. No one is allowed to speak in modern English or an American accent. And if you are caught doing so, you will be fired on the spot. Well, listen, I really like this job. It's the job of my dreams and maybe even my destiny. And so I am really careful to follow the rules. Because I am a lady in waiting, my costume is absolutely spectacular. My bodice is made out of heavy purple upholstery fabric. On the bottom, I have to wear cotton stockings, pantaloons, and then a hoop skirt. Now, in Elizabethan times, hoop skirts were made out of silk with very thin, fine, lightweight cane. But the owner of this fair is a frugal innovator, and he decides that he should have the blacksmith forge hoops of steel that will go into our hoop skirts. These hoop skirts weigh at least 25 pounds. And when I walk, my shins hit against the hoops, and I have huge hematomas all along my shins. I have to wear soccer guards that protect my shins when I walk. Now, over the petticoat and over the hoop skirt, I have another extremely large and heavy purple upholstery fabric skirt. My entire costume weighs about 40 pounds. I am cinched and wedged and pulled into this thing so that my arms can barely move. When I walk, I look like the bell that Quasimodo rang in The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Well, finally, the first day of the fair comes, and it is even better than I expected. It's a completely blue sky, cloudless, and by 8 or 9 in the morning, it's already about, 80, 85 degrees. Well, everything is going really well. I have only forgotten a couple of steps in one of my dances, and a woman actually stops me after my role of playing Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream, and she says it was very interesting. Thank you, I say. And then I'm rushing off to something else, and I realize that I have to go to the privy. But listen, the owner of the fair hasn't made the performers their own bathrooms so we could have like a little rest or a piece of respite throughout the day. No, he tells us that we have to use the porta potties like everybody else. I mean, talk about ruining an illusion. Well, okay, I decide that I am going to use this opportunity to practice my spontaneous improvisations in Elizabethan English. So I'm standing online, and I say to this gentleman, "Hello, good sir. Oh, what art thou doing here?" And he says, he's going to the bathroom. "Oh, art thou going to, sir, art thou going to take a bath in the middle of the festivities? Art thou going to expose thy pizzle, thy sword, thy weapon? Oh, sir! Oh, sir! Oh, I delight at the mere thought of it." Well, then it's finally my turn. And when I get up to the porta potty, I realize that the door of the porta potty isn't wide enough to accommodate my skirt. And it seems a little unladylike for me to just hoist my skirt up and expose my undergarments. So instead, I back around and then I tilt my skirt to one side. I unlatch the door, and then I'm smiling and I back into the porta potty. Then I latch the plastic latch so I have some privacy. Well, I think I might have mentioned to you that my bodice was a little tight and it wasn't that easy to move, but I realized now that I couldn't really reach back and get my undergarments down. So I decide that I'm going to shift my skirt. And so I move it to the front of the porta potty when all of a sudden, whoop, it comes up and pins me inside the porta potty. I can't move. Oh my gosh. And by now it's about 95, 100 degrees inside this porta potty. And the methane gases and the carbon dioxide is starting to build up. Oh my God, please don't let anyone walk by with a lit match. Not now. No, not this way. Please, please. So I decide that I am going to try the Elizabethan 911 because I do not want to lose this job. I mean, where else could I actually earn $125 a week? So I cry out, "Help! Help! Help! I am trapped within this waste cubicle." And outside I hear, "Hey, Tom, they even do shows inside of the bathroom." No, in sooth, I am not doing a show inside of the bathroom. No, truly, I am trapped within this solar magnifier. Help! outside. Well, listen, if there is anything that this girl has learned throughout her entire life, is that sometimes a girl has to help herself. So there I am. I lift my foot and I'm reaching for the latch and I finally find it and then I move it over. And when I do so, I tumble out of the porta potty. Well, I fall into the dirt. I stand up, I refresh, I reboot, I renew myself. And so I get up and I pretend that I really meant to do that. And then I go find a building that has tall grass behind it. I do a full Elizabethan and water the weeds. Well, for 6 weeks, that happens all weekend. And I seem to realize now that the job that reeked of adventure and daring was really just a job that reeked from all of the drunk patrons and people who said inappropriate things, including me. So at the end of the summer, I decided to walk away from that destiny and find another one, which led me to storytelling. You know, Shakespeare said it right. Our destiny lies not within our stars, but within ourselves. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh,
Hey, great story.
excellent.
Terrific.
Wonderful.
Lovely. Thank you. What a fantastic story. Thank you so much, Reggie. That was hilarious. I have to say, really good English accent. Most Americans cannot do that. Bloody excellent. And you going to the loo in your dress sounds like me in my first wedding dress. Thank you. Really good. So our next storyteller tonight is Antonio Harsha. I do hope I pronounced that right. I'm really bad at that. And he's another import like myself, but he's from Brazil and he came to America in way ago in 1988. He's an internationally acclaimed storyteller and blends a unique fusion of mime with spoken word. And he's got a beautiful tenor voice, and his extreme passion and enthusiasm makes his performances stand out like none I've ever seen. He's very unique. He's worked with the likes of Marcel Marceau and Tony Montanaro. He's earned the coveted Circle of Excellence Award by the National Storytelling Network. He's also a TEDx speaker and coaches and offers workshops. So if you're interested, he's also an author as well. Check out his website at storyinmotion.com. Now, Antonio did not give me his New Year's resolution, so maybe he'll tell us now, but maybe doesn't have a New Year's resolution. So please welcome to the stage, Antonio Harsha.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. It is so good to be here with you. And my New Year's resolution is to be more helpful and to stop the me that sometimes we can get ourselves into so easily, right? And so I will tell a brand new story today. This is a true story. It's something that happened to me, and it will illustrate what it is to go through traveling nonstop as a solo performer. And I know we are taking a break from travel, and I call this my magic carpet of traveling around the world from my living room. But I love to travel, and this story is about a trip, part of a trip, and also there will be some nice tips for you when you start traveling. A few things I've learned from being on the road for the past 30 plus years. Okay, the title of the story is Instant Karma. Not the bad one, the good one. It happened a handful of years ago. I woke up, and when I looked, there she was, taller than I thought she would be. Oh, up close and personal. Her curves were so sensuous, and she had this foreign flair for adventure. Oh, she was riveting. Ha! The Airbus A380, the largest passenger aircraft in the world. Yes, I was going to fly from New York, JFK, all the way to Paris, Charles de Gaulle International Airport, on my way to a major international festival in Austria. I was so excited. Here I am at JFK with planes coming and going, and I was going to board this very large aircraft. Now, I know a lot of people are not into aircraft, but I'm talking about the largest passenger aircraft in the world. This is what it looks like. It's a complete double-decker, completely double-decker through and through, from nose to tail. It can take over 500 people on 3 different classes of service: first, business, and coach. The wingspan is 262 feet, almost the length of a football field. I was going to find myself in one of those coach seats and take off to Paris in just a few hours. This is a classic route, folks, a classic route which was pioneered by Charles Lindbergh in 1927. That's right, in 1927, he flew across the Atlantic nonstop on a propeller plane called the Spirit of St. Louis. He did it from a field just 10 miles away from JFK, where I was at the time, in 33 hours and 30 minutes. On a propeller plane. At times, he was just 10 feet off the dark and frigid waters of the North Atlantic. The Spirit of St. Louis, he succeeded flying across the North Atlantic. Non-stop, no sleep. Piloting the whole time. The airplane was a fuel tank with wings. And he made it, earning him world fame and $25,000 in 1927. And now I was going to go in just about 7 hours on the great A380. Now, I looked around after the snap. I usually don't take naps in the afternoon, but I've been really tired all day because it's so exciting going abroad to tell stories. And going to Austria was going to be my 10th time to this international festival. And I loved going to Austria to tell stories there, but I wanted to also get on this airplane. But it flies from New York City, not from Maine. So I live in Maine, so I flew to New York just to get on this airplane. And because of my mileage and my perks and my premier level with Delta Airlines, I was welcomed to the first class lounge of Air France, the airline company that was going to take me across the frigid waters of the North Atlantic. Oh, the first class lounge with all the French pastries and the drinks, and there on the other side of the glass, the A380. Oh, I had been there for about 3 hours now. I had arrived super early from Maine, and just to be safe, I didn't want to miss the flight. So I'd been in the lounge for many hours. I had greeted the workers at the front desk of the first class lounge, the Air France greeters, and they also check your flights and make sure everything is all right. I had told them I was going to go to Austria to tell stories. And they said, oh, you're one of the passengers going to Vienna. I said, yes, changing planes in Paris. And so I'm looking around and enjoying myself when all of a sudden, there's an announcement from Air France. The flight has been delayed 20 minutes. Oh, that's no big deal. For an international flight, 20 minutes. The flight is sold out. Can you imagine? Over 500 people are going to be jammed into this jumbo jet, and it's 20 minutes late. And I wonder what it could be, because the weather was fine. The aircraft looked fine. Planes were coming and going. I could see them landing and taking off. What must have happened? Oh, just a little glitch, or perhaps some delay with the crew. So I just waited a little more, looked at some magazines. Bing, dong. 20 minutes had passed, and another 20-minute delay was announced. Now I start to get a little concerned, because I'm an airplane nut. I'm a plane nut. You can tell from the sat behind me. And I said, when they delay 20 minutes and then they delay 20 minutes again, it's usually because they're trying to fix something that has broken. Oh, this is not good. I'm sniffing something nasty coming my way. No, forget about it. Forget about it. Forget about it. So I go over to the front desk and I greet the ladies again. So it looks like you guys are in a bit of a situation. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry about it. Yes. And well, just keep us posted. You see, I always try to be nice to the people behind the desk, because usually they're trying to do the best, and we passengers tend to abuse them verbally most of the time and think that they're working against us. But guys, I've worked on the other side of the front desk of an airline company long ago when I lived in Brazil, and I know what it is to deal with crazy passengers, and I don't want to be a crazy passenger. The airline personnel are my best friends when I go traveling. And so, bing, the third 20-minute delay. Now people are standing up and pacing. They're making phone calls. This looks like it's going to be a cancellation. No, not a cancellation. I got to be in Vienna tomorrow. I have to work the day after. This can't be. And sure enough, the flight cancels. People jumped up. Some left the lounge. Others started yelling at the ladies. And I went straight to the phone to call Delta Airlines. I had a direct line that I could speak with somebody. I didn't have to stand in line, and I'll just try my best. Yes, I need to go to Vienna tonight. And the flight just canceled. It's not showing on your screen yet. Well, it just happened. It's going to pop in any second. Oh, I told you. Yes, it was going to pop in any second. There it is. It's just canceled. And I'm a storyteller, as you can see on my profile there in your computer. And you see Antonio Harsha Storyteller at gmail.com. Yeah. And I have a show the day after tomorrow. It was a Wednesday. I had Thursday and Friday night. I was going to be opening the festival in Austria, and I need to be there. And tomorrow night, you'll have a seat tomorrow night. Oh, I hate to say this, but tomorrow night, that means if something happens tomorrow night, I'm going to miss the first show for sure. Do you have anything in the morning? Okay, I'll hold on. Now the lounge was pure pandemonium. And people are yelling at the ladies. I can't believe this. They're not the ones who broke the plane door. That was what had happened. A catering truck had hit one of the doors of the airplane, and they had been sending pictures to Airbus Corporation in France to see if the plane was okay to fly with a warped door. And that was a no-no. That's why they had to cancel the flight. And they are yelling at the ladies. I said, this is nuts. First of all, they didn't drive the truck. First of all, they didn't break the plane. They're trying their best. And I remember those years working behind the desk, and out of my mouth came, please, you have to stop yelling at these ladies. They haven't broken the airplane. I don't know what took out of me to say that, but I guess it was just the verbal abuse I was witnessing. You see, I had just told Delta that I needed to be there by tomorrow because I had a gig on Friday. I'm flying with 2 days to spare. And this is something I really would like for you to take away from this. Whenever you're going somewhere, whether it's a cruise, whether it's a wedding, don't plan to arrive the day before, because something happens with your flight and you're going to miss everything. You know, I've seen so many people going on cruises on a wintry day, flying out of the northern parts of the United States, and then there is a mechanical or there is a snowstorm, and you miss your cruise because you're planning to arrive the day before. Some people plan to arrive the day the cruise is going to depart. Here's the trick. Your first port of call is not the first port the ship is going to sail to. It is the port the ship is sailing from. So if you're flying to Fort Lauderdale to go on a cruise, Fort Lauderdale is your first port. Just look at it that way and you never miss a cruise. Just go the day before, enjoy Fort Lauderdale or Miami or New York City, and then you get on your cruise, okay? And so the person was back, okay, you got me a flight tomorrow 6 a.m., 6 a.m. I have to go to London, okay, then I change planes in London, okay, that's fine. And then Prague in the Czech Republic, that's fine. I can actually get a train from Prague to Vienna, but okay, you have a flight for me. Okay, so flight from Prague to Vienna, this is excellent. What time do I get to Vienna? 10 p.m., okay. All right, that's fine. I'll go to a hotel and then I take a train to Graz, 2 hours away, and I'll be ready for the evening. That's great. Thank you so much. And then I fold the phone and I exit the lounge. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I've been up for almost 24 hours and I'm standing there on the sidewalk, tired, tired, exhausted. I'm even kind of confused. It's 1 o'clock. My flight leaves for London at 6 a.m. It's not even worth going to a hotel. The sidewalk is packed with about 400 passengers. You see, I'm in the lounge with just a handful of first-class passengers, but the plane sits over 500 people, and all these people are going to hotels. I said, by the time I get to a hotel room, it's going to be time for me to brush my teeth and head back to the airport. It's not worth it. So I'm standing there. Maybe I should go back into the building and find a little corner and go to sleep right on the carpet. And I'm standing there looking left, looking right, looking left, looking right, when all of a sudden, somebody taps me on the shoulder. I'm traveling alone. Who's tapping me on my shoulder? I turn around, and guess who I see? It was one of the ladies, Air France employees from the first class lounge. I kid you not, these were her first words. She looks at me, frowns a little bit, and goes, Vienna, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Vienna. What time did you get a flight? What time is it? I said, 6 a.m. She goes, follow me. I have something for you right now. I'm like, right now? And I followed her like a puppy. I'm like, what do you mean you have something for me right now? I called, 30 minutes ago. I was on with Delta, and they said the first thing that they could put me on was at 6 a.m. She goes, yes, that was 30 minutes ago. 30 minutes ago, it was. I'm smoking with excitement. So 30 minutes ago, there are no flights. But right now, there is seats on a flight that is super late coming in from Paris, and it's going back right now to Paris. And because it's so late, it is hours delayed. There are a few seats that have opened up from passengers who have chosen to go on tomorrow on another flight. And she gets behind a computer, turns it on at 1:30 in the morning on her way home. And she says, window or aisle? I said, window. I'll be able to sleep a little bit if I'm resting against the window. And I said, and why are you doing all this? You're on your way home. She said, well, I reckoned you from behind. And I said, he's the only one who didn't bark at us in the first class lounge. have a safe trip. I got those boarding passes. All I need to go was to Paris and head on to Vienna. I was going to be just a couple hours late after all. I got on that plane. It was not on the A380, and that's okay. I got to fly on it a couple years later. I got a pillow, and I placed against the wall of the plane, and I relaxed my face on it, and I revisited that day. From the minute I had left my home in Maine to all that had transpired in New York. And I closed my eyes with a big smile upon my face. Thank you so much for listening, and bon voyage.
Bravo, bravo.
Hey,
That was wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Antonio. It was terrific.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Antonio. That was so brilliant. And I have to say, no one wants to fly with a warped airplane door. So thank God it was cancelled. But how nice. It's really nice when you don't shout at people and you get rewarded for it. Normally you just don't shout and you have to stand in the line with the hotel with everybody else. So lovely. Lovely, lovely. Thank you. Very great story. Our third storyteller tonight is the fabulous and really funny Kim Whitecamp. Now, in previous times, Kim used to travel full-time, performing at theatres and festivals. She's hosted a morning show, she's a keynote speaker, and she teaches workshops internationally. And she even sings, which I always find really impressive because I can't sing. So she's also won more awards than I can possibly tell you about here. She describes herself as the red-headed middle child of exhausted parents, which always makes me laugh. She loves people and really misses telling stories on the stage. That's what everybody does. But this is definitely, the best we can do at the moment. So we hope this is actually, the best, closest impersonation of a real life event that you can possibly get. If you want to know more about Kim, visit her website, kimwhitecamp.com. Now, Kim also has a fantastic quote that I had to read from Steve Perry from a SiriusXM radio station. What he said was, if we are talking rock and roll, Tina Turner was a national treasure. Country has Dolly Parton. And in the world of storytelling, we have Kim Whitecamp. Isn't that lovely? So Kim hasn't really got a New Year's resolution, just that she doesn't want to be told that she has to lose weight, like most of us. We're not going to do it just because the clock ticks to like the 1st of January. I'm with you, Kim. So please welcome to our virtual stage, Kim Whitecamp.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in the room tonight and hanging out with us. And thanks, Claire and the team, for everything. So a couple years ago, I was in Virginia Beach and I had a couple gigs there and a little bit of work at a library. And I have some dear friends that work there, one that lives there. One is Nora Spencer, who's in the room tonight, and my friends, April and David. And I stayed at April and David's house, and it was a specific day where I had nothing to do and they were at work. And I was so excited because I was tired. I'd been on the road a while and I thought, you know what? On the day that they're working and I have that day to myself, I'm going to go down the beach to this little area that April showed me that has hardly any commercial buildup. There's some like apartment buildings, but they're a little ways back from the beach. And the times that she'd taken me there was nobody there. So I was so stoked to have a day of rest. And I prepared myself for the beach. Now you can look at me and tell that preparing for the beach with this skin tone takes some work. I lathered myself up, slathered on sun lotion that had an unbelievably high number on the front of the tube, and coated myself appropriately. Then I have this muumuu that I like to wear because I really like to feel very free and flowy when I'm on the beach. And so I put on this beautiful muumuu, just billowing and large and covering anything that I didn't want anybody to see. And then I have a hat that is wider than my shoulder width that looks like a flour tortilla meant a UFO. That is my garb for the beach. I let the full skin showing to the ladies that are working on their leather belt appearance at the age of 80. I prefer to keep the wrinkles at bay, and I burn and freckle. It's not attractive. Well, I loaded up the car. I got a bag. I put some grapes, some water, and a book in it. Put a little towel in case I got, wet at the bottom of my moo-moo, because there's no way I was going in the water. Who knows what lurks beneath those waves. And threw that into the back of the car and put a folding chair in there, and I was off. I was so pumped. I cannot explain to you, to have a whole day of doing nothing while sitting on the beach. And it wasn't like the super peak hot season. It was like a little cool in the shade and perfect in the sun. It was about a 20-minute drive. And as I got closer, I put the window down a little and listened for the roar of the rhythm of the earth. And I heard it. And my spirit soared as I pulled into the parking lot, edged forward into the very front line of spaces, and parked. As I turned the car off, I looked around and realized that I was the only car there except for one car 2 spaces over. It wasn't even a car. It was a truck, an old truck. Its bumpers underneath had rusted, full of salt had rusted through, and discolored rust marks all around it from the sea salt. And I saw the ends of different implements sticking out of it, and bulges of things that had been thrown into the back. And I thought, okay, so we're alone here. And I looked in the front seat. In the front seat, there was a guy sitting there, the steering wheel, just leaned forward and staring straight out over the dry seagrass to where you could see the water. And from where I was sitting in my car, looking over, I could feel the waves of intensity coming off of him. And I thought to myself, this guy is super pissed. You could just see it on his face. And I looked at him, and then I looked back into the back of the truck, and I thought to myself, should I get out of my car? There is nobody else here. All the apartment buildings, there's only 2 that sat back. Even there weren't many cars. Everybody was working. Well, I thought to myself, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get out of the car. I think I'll get out of the car. And what I'll do is I'll call my voicemail as I carry all of my stuff so that he can see that I'm talking to somebody on the phone, because we've all seen Snapped. And we understand the triangular cell service that can spot the killer and where the dead body is. So I thought if I call my voicemail, it'll ping that triangular tower conglomeration, and then he'll see I'm talking and know that we've been pinged. If something happens, people will find me from my cell phone ping. So I got out of the car, got my bag on my shoulder, picked up my chair, and as I did, I heard a voice. And it said, "Go talk to him." As if somebody was standing right behind my ear, I heard it. And I looked down and pretended that I was on my phone, and I thought, go talk to him? Absolutely not. I knew from the things I'd seen on Lifetime that there were shovels and ropes and duct tape and garbage bags and things in that truck that were meant to do me harm. And I thought, there is no way that I'm going to go talk to him. So I continued to drag my stuff out of the car, and I took the phone, called my voicemail, and put it here as I carried everything. And I really made sure he saw me as I was walking, or at least I thought he saw me. And I made my way through the dry grass to where the driftwood splintered pier juts into the sand. And as I got to the end of the little pier, I took the phone, because I knew that I was far enough away that, it didn't matter if he saw me at this point. He'd already seen me out in the parking lot. The triangle was secure. Dropped it into my bag, hoisted everything up, and began to trudge through the sand. I've always felt that walking through sand gives your feet an idea of what your teeth feel like when they get Novocaine from the dentist. It's a workout. And I finally got to a place right near the water's edge where the dark line was from the ebb and flow of the water, the earth's clock. And I looked at the dark line, and I moved back a couple yards so I'd have some time before the water started to come into my space. And I opened the chair and I put it down, and I heard it again. Go talk to him. And I thought, well, it's too late now. I'm out here on the beach and it's not going to happen. I'm not going to do it. I sat down on my chair, adjusted my hat, reached into the bag, popped a few grapes, took a swig of water, and got my book out. I opened it real wide so the spine cracked so it would lay on my lap, and thousands of dead librarians turned over in their graves. And I leaned back with the book open on my lap and looked out at the ocean. You know, when we are by a large body of endless water or at the base of a great majestic mountain, or when we have that first sip of a dirty chai latte with almond milk from Starbucks on a Monday, suddenly anything is possible. And I sat there with thoughts drifting through my mind, poetic thoughts, things that I dreamt of that I wanted to do. And then coming into my thoughts, like a steward on a plane, I heard it again. Go talk to him. And I said, no. And I looked down at my book. Now, a weird thing began to happen. It was like the movie Groundhog's Day, where you want to read from page to page and turn them in page to page, but you kind of find yourself, somewhat like when you're sleepy in bed, going over the same paragraph time and time again. That went on for almost 10 minutes. And finally, I slammed the book shut and said, fine, I'll make a deal. Because that's what we do at the universe, right? We make deals. I said, I'll tell you what, if it's that important that you won't let me alone, when I leave here, if he's still in that truck, I'll talk to him. But if he's gone, it's too late, not my problem. So I decided to pack up and head back. About 20 minutes had passed. And I dropped the book into the bag, picked the water bottle out of the sand, dropped it into the bag, stood up, turned around to shut my chair, and there he was. My heart went into my throat. Not even an Elizabethan 911, Reggie, would help me at this moment. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's left his vehicle. He was standing on the edge of that wooden dock that stopped the sand. His hands were shoved into the pockets of his sweatshirt, and he was staring straight out at the water, intense, legs spread. And I said, okay, fine. I hoisted the bag onto my shoulder. I grabbed my chair and I headed towards the dock. Standing down in the sand, he was already tall and his head was probably 8 feet above mine. And I said, hey, you doing okay? And without even looking at me, he said, yeah, I'm good. So I got in front of him and I said, no, are you doing okay? He looked down at me, a crease of interruption on his forehead, wrinkling his brow. And he said, yes, ma'am, I'm fine. And he looked back up, staring out at the ocean, intense. And I thought, well, I did what I was supposed to do. I'm out of here. So I walked up the side of that little dock, stepped up onto it, and began to walk down it when the voice came again. It'll pass. I didn't have to mull this one over. I knew what I was supposed to do. I turned around and I said, hey! And he spun around, hands still in his sweatshirt pocket, and he said, yeah? I said, it'll pass. He said, what? I said, it'll pass. I don't know what is going on with you. I don't need to know. But whatever it is, it'll pass. And he stared at me, and I turned around and I left. I made my way back to the car, threw my bag in the back, put the chair in the back, got in the front, shut the door, and locked it. And in the silence of the car, I could hear my heart pounding with a swish in my ears. It's hard walking through sand. It's hard being scared. It's hard talking to a stranger. And my heart was pounding, but I thought to myself, I'm not dead. I made it. Nothing happened. I was very excited that I was getting out of there. I put the key into the ignition, turned it, and was getting ready to put it into reverse. And I knew I wasn't done. There was no voice. Enough had been deposited, and you know this feeling that you know what you're supposed to do. You don't need any more voices in your ear or your conscience sending you these subtle, lovely, melodic messages. I reached into my bag, pulled out a business card, got out of the car, went over to his truck, shoved and wedged the car between the window and the rubber, and got back in my car, and I heard it. Done. Thank goodness. I went to my friend April and David's, and that night we ate and we drank. I shared the story. I told him how petrified I was. I told him how I did not want to talk to the man. And I said, you know, I don't even know what was going on. And then the night continued and a day passed, and then I left, and then I went home and 3 days passed. And I was sitting in my office at my house, and my phone rang, and I looked down, and it was a Virginia Beach number. And the thought crossed my mind: open the door, keep the door shut. Open the door, keep the door shut. I picked it up. Hello. He said, hi. He said, I'm is this the lady that I met at the beach? This is a number that I was given, and I'm trying to just get in touch with her. And I said, as a matter of fact, it is. And he said, Kim? I said, yep, just like it is on the card. And I said, and to whom am I speaking? And he said, this is Quest. I'm not making this up, people. I know you're not supposed to say that, but I swear, could there have been a better name for this guy? And I said, Quest, really? And he said, yeah. And he said, I want to thank you for talking to me that day on the beach. And he said, I want to tell you what was going on. He said, I had a son who was a few months old. Was married to my wife for 6 years. And that morning I found out that she was having an affair with my very best friend, and that child probably wasn't mine. He said, I got in my truck. He said, I detail boats. I went to the most secluded place I could find. And in that truck, I was saying to myself, how's this done? Do I just walk in until I go under and can't breathe anymore? Should I do something to myself to make sure I can't get out? And he said, I had a thought. God, if you're real, you need to tell me what to do. He said, because Kim, he said, I was done. And he said, then you, my angel, walked up to me and said, you okay? But he said, it's when you said it'll pass that I knew that was what I needed to hear. And we had a good long talk about how suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. He told me about his son and his wife. He told me that when we were done, he went to see a pastor that he hadn't gone to in years, hadn't seen in years, poured his heart out and decided to make a go of it. The interesting thing that happened from that is that over the next 2 years, we would call each other just once or twice a year. Sometimes it would be me calling him, sometimes him calling me. And what we talked about was what the other person needed to hear. It's kismet, connection. Well, I was heading out to Virginia Beach to see some friends, and he said, I called him. I'm like, hey, I'm coming to Virginia Beach. I'm bringing my daughter. He said, why don't we meet at the Starbucks? And I said, I would love that. I want my daughter to meet you. And he said, I'm really excited. He said, my son is mine. He's getting old enough that someday I will tell him the story. I'm like, awesome, because I didn't start telling the story until he gave me permission after he told his son. So we go into the Starbucks, and my daughter are sitting there, and we're having a drink, and we're watching the door, and in he walks. And in front of everybody, throws his hands up and says, my angel. I went over, I hugged him. He came over, sat down, and I'm like, Quest, I need to tell you something. And he said, what? I said, I'm a horrible person. I am selfish, self-centered, and only have my own safety at the forefront of my mind. And that day, I almost didn't talk to you. I said, I felt the push to talk to you 4 times before I finally made a deal that if you were there, then I'd do it. And I said, I am no angel. And I said, to be honest with you, you scared me. And he said, well, he said, to be honest, you scared me. And I said, excuse me. I said, why did I scare you? And he said, have you seen yourself in that muumuu and hat? And that's the story about my quest with Quest. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to hear the rest of the show.
Oh, Kim, that's amazing. Have you seen yourself? Pictures or it didn't happen.
Yeah, those pictures are hidden, Peggy.
Oh, thank you so much, Kim. That was a really lovely story. Just think they're just moments of grace, aren't they? And I'm so pleased you acted on it. That's just, and how lovely that you found out what happened, because most of the time you never find out, do you? But that's lovely. And I have to say, I love that phrase, a crease of interruption on his forehead. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal it from you. Hopefully I have your permission. Now, I keep forgetting to tell people to mention people in our YouTube audience. Now, we've got people from all over the country. We've got people in Berkeley, in LA, in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Tennessee, and even Tucson. So welcome to everybody in our YouTube audience, as well as obviously everybody in our Zoom. So lovely to see you all tonight. Now, our final storyteller of the evening is the amazing, hilarious, and really pretty bonkers Bil Lepp. He's one of my favourite storytellers. I've seen him a couple of times live, and I just became a fan instantly after that. He tells mostly family-friendly stories, really funny tall tales. He's an award-winning children's author. Now, I once saw him sort of perform his kids' book, The Princess and the Pickup Truck, and it was utterly brilliant. And I just wished that my kids were young enough so that I could read it to them, but they so didn't want to hear it. He's also been awarded the National Storytelling Network Circle of Excellence Award, and it's been featured 19 times at the festival. He was a preacher, and he's been 5 times winner of the Biggest Liar competition. So to find out more about Bil, then go to his website, which is Lepp with 2 P's, leppstorytelling.com. Now, Bil also has a brilliant quote, which I love, from a fellow storyteller, Barbara McBride Smith. Bil Lepp is the wonder bra of storytelling. He takes something small and insignificant and pushes it up into something really big and mightily interesting. Such a brilliant quote. He's a wonder bra. And Bil told me his very, very serious and important New Year's resolution is to go bowling more often. So there we go. So please give us a huge virtual round of applause and a welcome to the next storyteller, Bil Lepp.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here as always. Now, I was flying, this is another flight story. I was flying from New York City to Charleston, West Virginia, which means that I was on my way to Atlanta. And I'm not always superstitious, but in some aspects of my life where I am superstitious, I'm extremely superstitious. And so I have this ritual that I have to go through when I'm flying. And what that is I fly just enough to get to sit in the exit row. I'm not quite as good as Antonio. I don't get to hang out in the first class lounge, but I do get to sit in the exit row. And so what I do is I get on the plane, and I'll take my little bag and I'll shove it underneath the seat in front of me. And then invariably the person in front of me will turn around and say, the strap of your bag is in my personal space. And then I pull that back, and then I get in the little pocket on the seat in front of me, and I pull out the in-flight magazine, which I know there's a lot of terrible things about the pandemic, but one of the worst things that I've experienced so far, no, let me not say that because that makes light of 400,000 people who have died in this country. However, now that I've started this joke, I feel like I just have to press on. They don't have the in-flight magazine anymore is what I'm saying, so I can't do the Sudoku puzzle. But when I get on an airplane, usually I reach in the pocket, I pull out the magazine, I flip to the back, and then I have to do the Sudoku puzzle. And I feel like I have to complete the Sudoku puzzle before the plane takes off, or it's probably going to crash, or at the very least, the door will be bent by the food machine. Now, I just want to go back and recover a joke that I missed a second ago. One time, I got a really bad cut on my hand, and I went to the doctor, and she put 13 stitches in my hand. And I said, doctor, that's 13 stitches. You either got to take one out, or you got to put another one in. And she looked at this grievous wound, and she said, why would I want to do that? And I said, because 13 is bad luck. And she looked at this grievous wound, and she said, don't you think you've already had the bad luck? And I was like, you can't be too careful. So anyway, I get on the plane, I get out the in-flight magazine, flip to the back, do the Sudoku puzzle. Well, when you're sitting in the exit row, what happens is before you take off, the flight attendant comes back to where you're sitting, and he or she will lean into the seat, and they say to you very seriously, are you aware that you are sitting in the exit row? And you have to respond verbally. You have to say yes. And then they say, are you willing and able to help in the event of an emergency. And again, you have to respond orally. And when they instituted this policy, you had to say yes. But now, as long as you respond verbally, they're fine with it. So I generally say something like Pop-Tarts. So we went through that process and the flight attendant walked away. And this is when I finally was able to reach into the pocket in front of me, pull out the in-flight magazine. I turned to the back to do the Sudoku puzzle, and some inconsiderate person had already completed the easy Sudoku puzzle, jeopardizing the lives of every person on that plane, because that meant I was going to have to do the difficult Sudoku puzzle before that plane took off. And even though we were at LaGuardia, where you have to taxi for 3.5 days, I did not complete the Sudoku puzzle. So I knew that we were all doomed. So I did what I do when I know I'm doomed. I went to sleep. Because let's face it, if the plane is going down for 30,000 feet, I want to wake up maybe a foot off the ground and be like, what, huh? You know, I don't want to scream for 30,000 feet. So I put my head back and I went to sleep. And I don't know, about 20 minutes out of Atlanta, the pilot came on the loudspeaker. And you can always tell it's the pilot, because the pilot wants you to know that they are a responsible person who understands that they are in charge of the lives of several hundred people and that they are a competent professional. And so they always want to start speaking with that confidence to make sure you know how good of a person they are. So the pilot always starts any in-flight announcement by going like this. This is the pilot speaking. I just thought you might like to know that when we took off from LaGuardia, the plane behind us, they saw some debris on the runway. And then he kind of laughed to let you know everything was fine. He said, they saw some debris on the runway and, well, we might have blown a tire. He said, but don't worry about it. We got lots of tires and there's no light in the cockpit indicating that we have a flat tire. So just back and enjoy the rest of your flight. And I thought to myself, I could enjoy this flight a whole lot more if I didn't know we had a flat tire. And then I started thinking, he said that there's no light in the cockpit indicating that we have a flat tire. And I thought to myself, does that mean that the light that indicates there's a flat tire is not illuminated? Or does that mean that no one ever installed a light to indicate that there was a flat tire? And then I thought, you know what? There's nothing that I can do about this. I'm just going to go back to sleep. So I was leaning my head back when I saw the flight attendant coming down the aisle. And she stopped in front of my seat and she leaned over and she very quietly, now I was the only person sitting in that particular exit row. She leaned over and she said to me very quietly, when we asked you to, you know, if you would be willing and able to help in the event of an emergency, you said yes. And I thought to myself, that is not what I said. What I said was Pop-Tarts. But I acknowledged that, yeah, that was my intention. And she said, were you serious? And I said, well, yeah, I guess I was. And she said, good, because we do have a flat tire and it's on your side of the plane. Would you be willing to change it for us? And I thought, well, yeah. I said, sure, that's in my skill set. And then she said, what all women would say in this situation, would you like the owner's manual? And I said, what all men would say in this situation, no, I don't need the owner's manual. I've changed a tire before. And so the first thing I did was I reached over to the exit door and I punched out the plexiglass and I opened the door and I lifted it up and I set it in the seat next to me and the little ramp went down. So I slid down the ramp and sure enough, the landing gear was out and the tire was flat. So I climbed back up the ramp and I went down the aisle of the airplane and I opened the cockpit door and I went in. Now, I have to tell you that when I write stories, usually I get to a point where I think to myself, the audience isn't going to believe that part. And this is how far I got into this story before I thought the audience isn't going to believe that part. But I went in the cockpit And I got down on my hands and knees between the co-pilot and the pilot seat, and there's a little console there, and I handed them each their cup of coffee, and then there was like 10 empty CD cases, some gum wrappers, $1.20 in pennies. I moved the console, I folded the carpet back, I flipped up that little lever, and I started to crank it so that I could lower the spare tire, you know, on that cable down beneath the airplane. And then I borrowed one of the headsets from the co-pilot. I went back down the aisle, climbed back out the emergency door, got up on top of the airplane, walked all the way to the back, you know, popped the trunk, and inside the trunk, there was an umbrella and a golf set and some jumper cables and an incomplete socket set. And I got out the jack because, no, I didn't. I got out the, holy cow, I can't think what it's called. Here I am at a very important part of the story. I got out the lug wrench. That's what I got out. I got out the lug wrench because you don't need the jack when you're at 30,000 feet is what I'm trying so hard to say. And I walked back down the body of the plane, slid down the ramp, and I got on the headphones, and I said to the pilot, I said, go ahead and roll her over. He said, roll what over? I said, roll the plane over. He said, why would I roll the plane over? And I said, so I can stand on the wing so I can fix this flat tire. And he said, negatory on the rollover. We just serve drinks to the folks in first class. And I thought, oh, that makes more sense. They have more miles than I do. You know, they're probably a higher status. And so what I did was, now, usually when I'm changing a flat tire, I take the wrench there and I put it on one of the lug nuts so that it's at an angle like this. And then I'll put my foot on the end of the wrench, you know, for the most leverage, and I'll just kind of push with my foot. Sometimes you got to get both feet up there, and then it'll go and make that noise, and it'll release the bolt. And as the wrench goes down like this, my feet slide back onto the ground. Well, I didn't think that was going to work at 30,000 feet. And so what I did was I climbed into the rim of the tire so that my back was against this side of the rim, and I put the lug wrench on the other side of the tire on a bolt, and I stuck my leg out and I pushed as hard as I could until I got each one of those lug nuts off. And usually what I do, of course, is I take the hubcap and I lay that on the road, and then I put the lug nuts in the hubcap so that when I'm done, the lug nuts are where they're supposed to be. But there was no hubcap, and I thought if I put the lug nuts right there, they're not going to be there when I need them. So finally, I got all the lug nuts off, and I took the flat tire. I went back up the ramp, and I put that in the seat next to me because I figured when we got to Atlanta, they were just going to plug that and put it back on the plane. And then I slid back down the ramp, and the spare tire, of course, was hanging on the end of that cable that was dangling underneath the plane. And I managed to grab hold of the tire, and then it had one of those weird little right angle bolts that go through it. And you have to unscrew the nut and then work that right angle bolt out of the spare tire, which is difficult under normal circumstances. So what I had to do was I had to stand on that ramp, grab the cable, put it in my teeth, and then I had to hold the spare tire kind of like this with this hand, and then try and get that bolt free with this hand. And I thought to myself, you know, under adverse conditions, this would be nearly impossible. But I did manage to get the spare tire free. Now, it was smaller than the other tires, and it had a yellow rim. But I finally got it on, and I put the lug nuts on, and I got them all tightened up, and I went back up the ramp, and I put the emergency door back in place, and I took the flat tire, and I shoved it under the seat in front of me, and the person in front of me turned around and said, "Excuse me, your flat tire is in my personal space." And so I didn't say anything because what I did was I just waited till they went to take a sip of coffee, and then I kicked the back of their chair as hard as I could. Now, I didn't really do that, but I did fantasize about it. And then we landed because I'm not a good person like Kim. I don't hear voices from heaven telling me, go do something good. My voices say, kick the seat in front of you. And then you don't leave your card, right? You don't call a week later and be like, hey, how's your shirt? Is it ruined? And so we finally landed. And I got to where my flight from Atlanta to Charleston was taking off. And they made an announcement that the flight was delayed due to mechanical difficulties. So I just walked home. The end.
Yay!
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, goodness. Bill, you're completely and utterly barking mad. But honestly, you would have thought they would install run flats on them, so you wouldn't have to go and change it mid-flight, really.
You would think, yeah. But I mean, this was a while ago.
Thank you. And thank you so much to everybody. What a fantastic show. What excellent stories. I can't believe it. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. So before we bring all the storytellers back on, I just want to tell you briefly about our next show, which won't be until February the 6th. And we're going to have a show that's going to honour Black History Month. And one of our featured storytellers is going to be the incredibly talented Diane Falat. So don't miss that. You'll have to keep checking our website, which is sfapshows.com, or our Facebook page, which will tell you as soon as tickets go on sale. If you're watching on YouTube, just click that subscribe button and you'll get details from that too. Okay, so what we're going to do now is just thank our storytellers. So I'd like to bring them back on. So first of all, let's bring back on Reggie Carpenter and show her some love. Hi, Reggie. Thank you so much. It was lovely to have you on our show.
Wonderful.
And Reggie, do you have any shows coming up that you'd like to talk to us about or tell everybody?
Oh, yeah. I've been running a series throughout the pandemic called Untold Stories. Strong, sassy, silent, no more for female story artists, so we can just talk about lots of stuff. And our next concert is next Saturday night. And if you'd like to know more about it, I'll put something in the chat. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, lovely. Thank you,
you,
Reggie. And presumably it's on your website, is it?
Presumably, huh?
Lovely. And let's also bring back Antonio. So is Antonio come back?
Hello.
Thank you, Antonio.
Yes, thank you.
And do you have anything coming up?
It was a pleasure. Coming up, yes, I have a workshop. It's an hour-and-a-half session this Monday. And it's with the North 40 Storytellers of Texas. North 40 Storytellers of Texas. Just want to say
North 40?
3 times, because you need to hear things 3 times in order to sink in. That's called advertisement. You need to see it 3 times. So North what? 39?
North 40.
Okay. And I have about 5 other performances between now and mid-February. And
busy man.
Yeah, it's been lovely beginning. And please remember that, you know, the whole reason why I told that story. Whenever you go somewhere, do not arrive before give yourself a day off before the first day. That's what I'm saying.
Especially if you're like, you have to change tires, eh?
Yes, exactly. You might need to change a tire like Bill had to. If your cruise leaves on a Saturday, you want to arrive early on Friday, if not Thursday night. Enjoy.
You finished your calling, Antonio. Should you have been a travel agent?
I kid you not. I kid you not.
Thank you, Antonio. And also let's bring back Kim Whitecamp. Hi, Kim. Thanks for your story. And what have you got coming up?
I actually, during this time, it's interesting, I've been doing more corporate and organizational coaching and keynoting. That's what I've been busy doing. I do have the Women's Storytelling Festival and St. Simon's coming up in a workshop in the next month and a half. So, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of stuff with organizations and businesses. I just finished some stuff with the Association of Community Colleges for International Development.
Oh, that sounds
I know. The longer it is, the more impressive. If you
Yes, absolutely. Let's get this stuff really long.
Yeah, that's been keeping me busy. It's just kind of, you go with the flow of what comes. And so there's been a lot of good festivals last year that we did virtual, but the ones coming up are the Women's Storytelling Festival, which is so exciting. And St. Simon's is coming up, which is virtual.
And will they obviously find all those details on your website? We hope. If not Facebook, we'll find it on social media somehow. Just go and search. We've all got much too much time available to actually update.
You know what? My Facebook is better. My
Facebook.
professional Kim Whitecamp Facebook. It's Have Mouth Will Travel is where you can find me on Facebook.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kim, and thank you for a fabulous story. And then our last storyteller, Bil Lepp. Hi, Bill. Crazy man. And what have you got coming up, Bill?
The next thing that I can think of is the Patchwork Storytelling Festival, which will be virtual, which I believe is the 11th, 12th, 13th of March. It's the second week in March, and that may or may not be on my website presently, but it will be soon.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Bill. And I'd also like to bring back my co-producer, Regina Stoops.
Yay, Regina.
Hi, Regina.
Hello, everyone.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you.
And what have you got coming up, Regina?
A great show and a lot of good travel tips.
Some better than others, obviously.
Yeah.
I can't do Sudoku, so I'm never ever going to have that. I'm not going to make that part of my traveling plans. Also, our show would not be able to be even here without the devilish talents of our tech guru, my husband, Count Mark Hennessy, but he says that we can all call him my lord, so that's nice, isn't it? Also want to thank my son, Tom Breeze, for the artwork and our beautiful title song, 6 Feet Apart, written and performed by Julia Mark.
And that was
So now I'm going to thank our wonderful Zoom audience. I'd like to bring everyone back on our Zoom. We're going to stick around for a bit of an after party, but thank you to everybody on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed it. You can obviously watch it again if you want to. The replay will be available with, almost immediately afterwards. But thank you for coming, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time. We're 6 Feet Apart Productions. Thanks very much and goodbye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Drive safe.
6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. It's the newest thing to do. Stay 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. The distance between me and you. 6 feet apart, 6 feet apart. And when I say I'll keep you very close to my heart, it's purely metaphorical. These times are quite historical. So step aside, let's live our lives 6 feet apart.